Let's take a deeper look at everything we'll cover inside of the 8-week live online course. First off, I want to start with a roadmap so that you know what we're covering and why, and kind of how we progress through the course over the 8 different classes. First of all, we spend some time trying to understand more about how emotions actually work in our body, why we have them in the first place, and how to start being able to catch them before they overwhelm us. And then we get into learning tools to manage our emotions. We start practicing these tools in the classes and also with our practice assignments. And the goal is to equip you with different strategies to be able to manage your intense or unwanted emotions. And then in the last section of the course, we get into ideas for preventing emotional hijacking. This is where we try to decrease your vulnerability to situations that will hike up your emotions and overall have some daily and lifelong systems that set you up for success when it comes to managing anxiety and emotions. The class format is the same every time we meet. Again, it's 90 minutes that we'll spend together. And first off, we start with an overview of what we're going to cover that day and why. And then we'll have a little mindful moment activity. This is to help get you into the practice of noticing your thoughts and your emotions and to kind of get you grounded in the space so that you can shake off anything you might have brought in with you right before you arrived. We'll cover some new material, which is usually 1 to 2 topics there. We'll take a break, just 5 minutes to kind of get yourself settled back in. And then we'll start with new material again, 1 to 2 topics. And then we'll have an overview of whatever practice assignments there are so that you can know exactly what to do in the week ahead if you want to put what we've learned to practice. So week 1, we start off with some tools for better understanding your emotions, your brain, and then the default processes that go on. We learn about the 3 purposes of emotions, which are sneak peek, to take action, to meet your needs, or to communicate. These are the reasons we even have emotions anyway. Then we learn about the 10 main emotions and each of their unique functions. And in that section, we'll cover what anxiety is and why we have anxiety. Then we'll also look at your personal emotional thermometer. This is so you can start to increase your awareness about you and your emotions and how to start recognizing when you're getting escalated so we can implement tools along the way. Then we look at some real basic brain elements that coordinate together and that impact our emotions so that we can start to target those different brain elements as we learn the tools. And then we look at 2 concepts that operate in us as a default, the negativity bias and also the default mood network in our brain. Week 2, we start to look at some good, robust tools for managing very intense emotions so we can de-escalate ourselves. So we learn about the 4 approaches to any emotion or a problem. This is a DBT concept, and the 4 approaches that we cover in the whole entire course. We just touch on them in this week too. But the approaches are to try to fix the situation, feel better about the situation if we can't fix it, tolerate the situation by just soothing ourselves and managing our emotions, or unfortunately choosing suffering or doing something that makes it worse. But the idea is we have these 4 options anytime we have an emotion or a situation that is difficult, and we can start to choose between them. So then we look at some self-soothing strategies. These are ways that we can use our 5 senses to regulate ourselves, regulate our bodies, and regulate our emotions. And we come up with some ideas for you specifically in that section. We look at the TIPP skills, which these are physical body regulation strategies to manage intense emotions. We refer to them as bottom up because it's not thinking yourself through something, it's actually changing your physical state. And then we look at distraction strategies. And we have an acronym ACCEPTS that covers 7 different ways that you can distract yourself with effective avoidance. I'm just kind of giving your body and your brain a break from whatever is causing you distress. in order to downregulate your emotions. Then we get to week 3, where we're starting to look at some tools to really increase our own understanding of our emotions. The more we understand them, the more options we have to be able to create shifts. So in this week, we dive into the mindfulness skills. And there are 6 different mindfulness skills that we'll look at. And these are tools to help you become more aware of yourself. So we look at the skill to observe, basically noticing what we're sensing, how to slow down your observations, how to notice your thoughts and emotions. We look at the describe skill, which is basically like, what are you saying to yourself about what you're observing? And we learn how to accurately label situations in order to reduce our emotional escalation. Then we look at the participate skill. This is like, what are you doing? And how to intentionally and willingly do things that will help your emotions instead of escalate them. We look at the non-judgment skill, which is a focus on facts in order to kind of limit our emotional escalation and the black and white thinking and labeling that we can get into whenever we have a judgmental stance. We look at the one mindful skill, which is basically learning how to focus on just one thing at a time instead of adding in a whole lot of stuff, worries about the future, or a whole lot of worries about the past, or just amplifying a current situation with stuff that isn't actually happening. And then we look at the effective skill, which is a focus on your goals, trying to reorient you to focusing on what is going to work for you in your actual situation that you're in and the goals that you care about. In week 4, we look at some additional tools to really deepen your own personal understanding of your unique emotions. So we look at the model of emotions, which is a really robust and helpful diagram of the specific elements of an emotion and how it plays out inside of your brain and body. And we also start learning how to implement change or control options with each of those elements in order to help reduce your emotional hijacking and feeling overwhelmed. So here you're starting to see like, oh gosh, I've got some options all along the way to be able to work with my own body and how emotions are playing out. So we look at those 10 emotions that we learned in the first week, and we start to see like what exactly your body does when each of that emotions come up. And we look at kind of the actions that those emotions are trying to get you to take when each of the specific emotions come up for you. Right, so we're learning how to recognize what's common for you internally and externally in each of those 10 emotion categories. And then we look at some common myths about emotions, because any false beliefs we have about emotions can actually intensify them. So we want to start learning to catch ourselves when we're having them and kind of challenge them. And before we get to week 5, we take a break off in the middle. So we have 1 week where we won't meet. And it's a chance for you to get some rest and also see about implementing the tools that you've been learning and catch up on any practice assignments that you might not have had time to participate with. When we come back for week 5, we look at tools for lowering the intensity of any unwanted emotions. So we covered 2 skills in this week. The first is the check the facts skill. This is a process to slowly and deliberately identify the actual facts about a situation in order to reduce your emotional intensity. So we're going to learn how to distinguish facts from fears. We're going to learn how to identify perceived threats that are spiking up our emotions. And we're going to look at the worst case scenario thinking that we often can get into and how to handle that. Then the opposite action skill is a process to kind of reduce the emotional intensity by purposefully acting opposite to whatever urge you're having about an emotion. So we learn how to identify emotion urges. We learn how to identify your specific opposite actions that will work for you. And we learn how to implement an opposite all the way concept for maximum impact to downregulate from that intense emotion. Week 6, we start looking at some tools to make changes so that you can better manage strong emotions. So now we've gotten into some of the prevention area of our course roadmap. So the problem-solving skill, this is a method to try to fix or change the issue that's causing the unwanted emotion, and this can help reduce our emotional response. So first we figure out how to identify the actual problem, and then we start looking at a strategic way to gather solutions, options, and then decide on the best one. And then how to take action and overcome some of the things that make it hard to take action, and then determine our next steps from there with the emotion and its intensity. And then we look at a concept of cultivating positive emotions on purpose. Here we're trying to intentionally and consistently do positive activities, pleasant activities, to bolster ourselves inside against upsetting situations and emotions that can kind of catch us off guard. So we look at how to plan ahead and create regular opportunities for positive events, positive situations. And we learn how to be mindful of the positive, so we have the most beneficial impact, and how to be unmindful of worries while we're doing these positive things for the most beneficial impact. So week 7, we look at some ways to reduce our emotional vulnerability and to continue cultivating positive emotions. So we cover the 3 keys to cultivating emotional resilience, and these are achieving important daily circumstances, right? So your day-to-day life looks the way you want. That's a way to have emotional resilience. The second is living according to your core life values. And the third is developing lasting and loving relationships. These are the 3 main elements that each of us as humans need in our life in order to be able to be emotionally resilient and to feel good, to feel happy. So we look at the cope ahead skill, which is strategically planning ahead for a future situation when you know that your emotions are going to get intense. So we learn how to specify the situation, nail it down, and determine in advance the skills you'll use. We learn how to use mental rehearsal to ensure your success with this future situation. And then we learn how to incorporate soothing skills along the way to reduce your fear. This is a very powerful tool. And then we look at connecting your values to goals, so that the second key for cultivating emotional resilience is living according to your core life values. So we want to help you be able to identify your personal core life values and set goals that align with them. And then we look at how to make some consistent effort on your goals so that you're continuing to feel better and better in your life and not abandoning things that matter to you. So then in week 8, our final week together, we look at some additional tools to increase resilience and also to get unattached from our emotions. So we look at something called the please skill, which is 6 different areas of self-care that we want to start assessing and improving on. Kind of some foundational pieces that we can do in our daily life to be able to help our emotional experience. Then we look at the RAIN technique, which is a process to reduce any unwanted impact of emotions by changing your relationship with them. So we're not trying to change our emotion itself at this point or regulate our bodies. We're actually trying to change our relationship with emotions. So we learn how to recognize and allow emotions to be in your body, how to tolerate sitting with emotional discomfort, and how to relate to emotions with curiosity and nurturing instead of wanting to quickly get rid of them. And then we spend some time just reviewing all of the content that we've gone through together in the 8 classes. We'll recap all of the concepts and strategies, and you'll also get a summary, a 2-page quick reference handout that will help you be able to pull that up and refer to anything you learned along the way in a moment when you can't remember what you learned, but you know it was something that would help you when you were really feeling escalated and you needed a quick tool. And then we'll just have a Q&A time on any topic that you'd like, and also ways that you might want to figure out how to apply specific tools to you. Right, so that's our 8 weeks, and I'd love to know if you have any questions. You can certainly email me, or if hearing about this has piqued your interest, go ahead and submit the enrollment interest form that's on the website, And we'll set up a consultation call and cover your any questions you've still got, and also just learn if it might be a good fit for you and if the course is going to be able to give you what you want. I'd love to hear from you.